Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio, and with me, as promised, is Deon Rebello, ladies and gentlemen. Deon, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell the people who you are in case they don't know.
How's it, Joe? And hi to all your guests. My name's Deon Rebello, and I am the CEO and founder of DCX Bullion. We are a bullion business and specifically into physical precious metals, namely gold, silver, and platinum. And the history of the business was we got involved. I got involved in this where I started to realize that things were changing in the world. Being into my 40s now, I started to see that how we were brought up to believe what was good, solid investments and things like that could be lost literally overnight. And, growing up in the early 90s, seeing the rand to dollar, under 10 rand, in fact, it was closer to five in the early 90s, and where it's now just gone right to the opposite end, and we're heading close to now 20 rand to the dollar. And it also made me realize that we've got a big problem in this country, that we firstly are a country that is volatile in economically, but also politically, and anything happens in this country, and the rand, it gets hammered for it. So, I originally started the business with the intention, and funny enough, we started with just mainly silver as a precious metal commodity, and we slowly started to see that we needed to look at a further investments, what people actually needed physically in their hands. What separates gold or silver or platinum? And I mean, I've got a couple of coins with me. That's a gold ounce there. Let me just find the camera. Everything's backwards. Yes. So that's a gold ounce there, you can see. And the lovely part with gold versus any other commodity, and silver, is that there's a value to it. It's intrinsic value. It's tangible. You can touch it. You can feel it. You can hold it. And the world we're living in is starting to show us a lot of massive uncertainty. And where gold and silver have always been, they've always been a form of currency. As long as man has been trading, we've always utilized silver and gold as a form of exchange. Right up until 1971, when Richard Nixon decided to remove the dollar from the gold standard, effectively uncoupling currencies from a physical metal. And that allowed literally the slippery slope that we are on now. We led all the way through to now, to early 2020, and we had the COVID lockdowns and everything else that happened with that. And all the governments have been doing, and this is internationally, so the Fed, our local reserve bank, and all the reserve banks from each country around the world have been trying to minimize the damage of what COVID, the lockdowns did, is by pushing currency money into their economies to stop them from crumbling. The biggest problem with that is money. When you start to print it unlimited in volume, it has to have a knock-on effect. And just to contextualize that, in 2020, and the dollar has its inception was in 1913. From that point to now, in 1 year, 21% of all the dollars were made in 2020. 21% of all the dollars ever printed were printed in 1 year. So when we talk about massive quantitative easing, which we were told is what they were doing, there's a big problem, and we could start to see. And now we're dealing with the ramifications. COVID has started to lessen, and now we've gone into a world where suddenly Russia went into war with the Ukraine. Regardless of your political, your beliefs of if it's right or wrong and who's right or wrong, there's still an effect in the world. I mean, we just heard now with Russia now not allowing wheat to be, exported out of the Ukraine. That will limit some of the food shortages. We look at fuel. A lot of the American oil refineries were specifically designed to refine Russian oil. And you get different grades of oil. Now, of course, they've got their own oil within the States, but the oil they were importing was mainly Russian oil. So we've seen massive shortages of oil. We've seen oil reach massive high proportions, over $120 a barrel. And, it's just been spiraling out of control. What does that do? That affects the money in our pocket. And how's that directly affected? Fuel prices go up. I mean, this year alone, we've seen massive, massive jumps. I mean, just my vehicle, which is an 80-liter tank, diesel tank. I mean, at the
Whew.
beginning of this year, it was around 1,600, around 1,700 rand a tank. I'm now sitting at 2.5 to 2,300 rand a tank.
Oh
And that
boy.
gives me 800 kilometers. So it's not a lot, but these are the realities. But importantly, and when I also speak about food shortages now in the States, and I read this article a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times, where they were actually saying that people must be aware that we are expecting massive more food shortages globally. And that's not just because of the war. It's because it's very simple. And in America, a lot of their farming is mechanized. And if you got sub-profitable crops, you're not going to be planting those. They're not going to be planted because they're going to be looking for crops that are actually going to bring them a decent return to survive. And so we're going to have massive, massive shortages. I just saw here Zach mentioned the petrodollar. Yes, there's big, big things going on right now. With Russia invading the Ukraine, effectively the BRIC nations, and we the small S on BRICS. And the important thing there is, yes, China has been sitting in the background. They've been watching what's going on, and they're probably one of the biggest benefactors of what's going on in the world right now. Because yes, we know that the world has been heavily reliant on the US dollar as a global form of exchange, and it's been that for a number of decades. And now this is slowly starting to change, where the uncoupling of the US dollar, where countries are asking for their payments not to be in dollars. I mean, Russia was insisting that they have payment within gold and things like that, and China also with the yuan and things like that. So there are a lot of things going on. But when we go back to my business, and we are, what was the biggest drive in my business was see my father work. He started his own business and he built it up. And he had partners. He lost the business. He rebuilt it up when I was a young child. But I also started to see that he had spent years and years investing in a retirement annuity, which we commonly know as an RA, and thinking, okay, by the end of his life, or when he gets to that point that he chooses to retire, there's going to be this nest egg. And as we all told, take out an RA. You need to look after yourself. And, as we started to look at this with the business, it's been a question that was bugging me for a while. And we actually then broke it down and we utilized my own RA, which is a very well established company within South Africa, as far as from the investment side. And that RA specifically, I've been investing into just short of 13 years. And Joe, the findings were quite shocking. And why I say that is, if I see what my premiums were on a monthly basis from 2009 to where we are now, and what the value is versus the total premiums. And then what we did is we took that same projection, utilizing the same premiums, but purchasing physical gold. And what I mean by that is we took spot price and we put a percentage above that, and then we projected that over the same period of time. And the interesting thing is, and I've got some slides I can actually show you if you like, and we can actually go through those. But the amazing thing is, it's very clear. There was two very, very clear things that came out of this research that we did. Is firstly, South Africans, and we all do, have a majority of our wealth based in rands. And the longer we maintain having that exposure to rand-based investments, the more we're going to be exposed to massive losses in wealth over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I will qualify that with a couple of things where we brought some examples of other countries. We also got to look at South Africa, Joe. I mean, we know we are in trouble. We've all just experienced load shedding, which is blackouts. Let's be blunt. And this could have been avoided if the right institutional infrastructures were from the beginning were updated, were maintained, were upgraded. And unfortunately, that's been one of the biggest problems. Is there's a lot of political keenness to do these things, but as far as execution, it falls short. And there's also a lot of people, for instance, very bluntly, even with these with the load shedding, it was a union strike, a base strike that caused this. And of course, the people just decide not to do work. And of course, that affects the full country. And the country is literally brought to its knees to change a difference in what they were asking for in percentage on wage. Sure, we are all battling right now. And as I said, just on my fuel tank, I mean, I mean, we go to the shops, we see what if inflation is doing to the money we own or have. If you look at this time last year, what you were buying in the shops to what you're buying now, same things. It's all gone up. I mean, I was looking today, Willie's had a special and it's buy three for this price. And 3 months ago, it was for 70 Rand. And now it's 85 Rand. And, it's these small creep ups that are happening, and it's happening all over. And
Well, you
sadly,
can an example I always like to use is beer, right? Because I remember in 2009, 10, somewhere there, when the FIFA World Cup was here,
yes.
and I was going out. It was a very celebratory vibe with the World Cup. Everybody was going out, having a good time, and I remember beer being like 10 Rand, 10 Rand. Now it's like more than double. Now it's like, I don't know. It's like 22, maybe 25. I don't know. I haven't been to a bar in a while, but it's like more than doubled.
But not even that, Joe. I mean, I remember, okay, let's give my age away, but I already said I'm in my mid 40s. But I actually remember going out in the mid to late 90s. And I mean, you buy a 6 pack of beer, and I don't know, we're talking about beer now, but it would cost 20 Rand for a six
For a
pack.
6 pack. Oh my word.
That same 6 packs are, I think, $100 right
Yeah.
now
A
or more.
hundred, just over 100. Just over 100. It's
So,
like 109
so
or something.
yeah, exactly. And what's interesting, what we're talking about here is inflation.
Jeez.
So, what the power of our money is now and what it's worth tomorrow. And this is exactly what this whole thing was about. So, as I said, what we went and did is we took and it is my RA, so I can say, and we back everything with numbers. So everything has been 100% verified. It's 100% correct. So there's nothing sensational about what we're talking about here. But what we're going to stress and emphasize is people need to start reconsidering how they hold their wealth. Do I say to sell everything and just buy gold and hold it? That wouldn't be a wise decision either. But what this is about is negating a lot of that inflation. Now we know in dollar terms, gold has given a return for the last 50 years of in dollars, a compound return of 8%. 9 rands, that's nearly double. In fact, over the last 20 years, in rand terms, gold has given a 21% return, and that's probably better. And that's probably a better return than most other available investments right now. And this is all. I mean, this is all stuff that I'm talking about is available. You can. This can all be verified. I see Matthew was talking about something cheap stuff.
I
Okay,
know
no.
he's just making a joke. It's he's my resident troll. Don't pay him any attention. Um,
Okay,
no, I'm
but
kidding. He
if you
jokes around a lot.
no, no, listen, you know what? It's got to be light-hearted, and this is the format of your show.
Yeah.
And the important thing also is that what I'm talking about is serious. And it is great that we talking about beer and that, because we're talking about economics here. We're talking about, at the end of the day, the value of what 100 Rand costs us today and what it'll be worth tomorrow. It's that simple. And we spend our lives, and this is what an RA is, a return, it is a vehicle that I spent the last 13 years putting funds into every single month. and believing by the end of it, by the time I retire within the next 10, 15 years, there's going to be this massive nest egg. And the truth is that's not. And very simply, I mean, what I can do is I can show, if you like, I can just actually show you. Can I share screen? Joe, I can't hear you. I've lost you.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. Yeah, no, you can check on your side. I think you can. There should be a button somewhere, but if you can't, I can also quickly show it. I did get your. I'll show it from the email you guys sent me.
I can share here quickly. I think it's here. Let me just see.
Let me just. I think it's this one. Yeah, the newsletter was in the newsletter. Yeah. So.
Can you see that, Joe? Can you see that?
Oh yes, here we go. Let me see. Okay, just give me a second. There we go. There's you. Okay.
Okay, so you can see the slide I'm showing you. So that's the breakdown, but I'll finish off on that. So what was interesting is we looked at the full premium since 2009 until current. And total premiums paid to date was 150,331 Rand and 83 cents. The value, so in other words, the money that investment has made me over the last nearly 13 years is 25, literally short of 25,000 Rand. In other words, 174,427. That had a performance of about 16%. You know, what was interesting is we then took this and we converted it into dollars. So those premiums paid over the same time. And what you'll see is on the right-hand side, your actual premiums paid outweighed your investment because of the devaluation of the rand. I'll expand on that a little bit just now. But just this is the interesting part here. Over that same period, if we had gone and invested those same premiums from 2009 to now, you would be sitting on a value of just short of 230,000 Rand. I mean, and that is the difference. If you look at that in dollar terms, same thing. Sorry, you look at it in dollar terms, it's the same thing. I mean, in fact, it's greater. And this was a devaluation of the rand to the dollar over that. You must remember in 2009, the dollar was around 7 Rand to the dollar. And we're now sitting on close to, there's been a bit of a pullback, but I think the dollar is on around 16.90 right now.
Yeah.
But interesting is that difference of that. But what we then also did, Joe, is we actually looked at, and we did this last year already. We looked at Argentina. Now, Argentina in January of 2020, their peso, Argentinian peso to the dollar, was 59 pesos to the dollar. In June of 2020, they defaulted. They had a sovereign default. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's simply the government was unable to repay the interest on the loans that they had taken out in order to support or maintain their economy from collapsing. They could no longer pay the interest of those loans, and they then defaulted.
Yeah.
We now fast forward over the next year, 2.5 years, which we've just gone over 2.5 years since, or 2 years to June. And the peso currently sitting at, if I remember, I think it was 100, yeah, it was 130 odd pesos to the dollar right now. So that is devaluation and that. So what we actually went and did is we did a very quick thing, and I'm just going to go through all of this, is there's the numbers and figures. And what we then did is we said, if you'd invested 1 million pesos into gold in January of 2020, and you'd held it in, just say, bought 1 million pesos worth of gold and literally held it in vault or at home or wherever, you'll see you would have a 11 ounces of gold if you'd bought on the 1st of January 2020. What's interesting is the current value of that gold in pesos is nearly 2.5 million pesos. So literally in 2 years, it's literally more than doubled in its value. So while the economy has been crashing and the peso has fallen to the dollar and the buying power. So in other words, and we also looked at the same thing is if you kept 1,000,000 pesos in the bank, in an Argentinian bank, and you're holding your wealth there, hoping and believing that the peso would survive what was happening, that current value would be probably around about just under 600,000 pesos that would be left in actual purchasing power. And just very simply, I mean, that shows you a massive thing when it comes to, I just want to, that shows you a massive thing when it comes to currency devaluation. And this is where, like I said, with the RAs, where what really concerned us was as soon as we started to look at the effects of the dollar and we started to see how our wealth is actually lost. I mean, for me to have an investment that I put over 13 years and I'm literally sitting with 25,000 Rand, effectively I've lost money. If you take that you take that 25,000 Rand as in my return on my investment, my ROI, and you put that over the 13 years with the depreciation of the Rand to the dollar, effectively I've lost money.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, in 10, 15 years from now, what is 1,000,000 Rand going to be worth? As you
Not
see
much.
in the Argentinian thing, 1,000,000 pesos in buying power is 600,000 pesos. Yet that same 1,000,000 pesos purchased in that January of 2020 is worth 2.5 million pesos. So simply, this is what this is all about. And please, you guys, you're more than welcome to go onto our website. We have got the whole newsletter on there. So you can just go to www.dcxbullion.com, go to the newsletter section, and you'll actually see the whole email, the whole newsletter on this. It's very interesting reading, and we're constantly looking at ways to make people aware that what we believe is wealth sometimes needs to be rechecked and reconsidered. And that's where we're coming from. And if we see where the world is going right now, we know there's massive uncertainty. Inflation in the States has literally gone through the roof. So same with England. I mean, now the next part is we now start to get interest rates coming in to try slow down this inflation. But in turn, that affects our buying power. So it's a vicious circle. And, we, as I mentioned, South Africa as a country, we are also sitting on that edge of a sovereign default. I've given you the Argentinian, example. How far are we from that? Interesting enough, I mean, in October of 2020, when Tito Mboweni was the then finance minister, he, at the midterm speech, the midterm budget speech, he had mentioned that for every Rand that government spent then, 21 cents was going to repay the interest on the loans that that the government had secured.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that's
that.
literally nearly 2 years ago. Where are we now? I mean, January we got another loan from the IMF. I think it was for 750 million US dollars. We put that into rands; it's in the billions. And this is just keeps printing out. And what's interesting is that was released in January. I remember listening to 702, which is our local talk show in Joburg. I know down in Cape Town you got Cape Talk and that. And Bruce Whitfield was the guy on the show, and he was asking the Reserve Bank, one of the Reserve Bank guys, so with this investment that the IMF has, this money, can you just discuss the South African debt to GDP ratio and how that's been affected? And he literally sidestepped the question. He said, this money is going to bring, with people and the grants and all this stuff, it's going to help to alleviate all this stuff. And he didn't even answer the question, because right now our debt to GDP ratio is sitting around 78. It actually had gone above that and had been pulled back. But even as, we are a developing nation, and to have our debt to GDP ratio at this level, and it's still projected to run higher, which is quite interesting. If you see where it's projected to be around 2025, we should be roughly into the 90s in percent.
Oh boy.
Now, as a first world country, say as the States or the UK, their debt to GDP ratios are far higher. In fact, the UK is about 108%. Yet they got the infrastructure and the economy to support that kind of debt. We
Yes.
don't. And we see how things are failing. We see how the municipalities are not delivering. There are potholes there as far as ESCOM, all the SOEs. There's massive failings. And the biggest problem here is when, like I know, Cyril just came out yesterday saying, they want to look at the whole power issue. And I think it's great that we are looking at alternative energy sources. And being someone that is in the precious metal space, and I think I might have discussed this with you the last time, is, we have platinum as one of the metals that we do look at. And of the three metals that we do sell, both silver and platinum have big industrial applications. In fact, in the green economy that we're moving towards, and that's going to be slowed up because of what's happening right now with the war in Russia and Ukraine, and just the global war with inflation. Industrial things will start to slow down.
Yeah.
But platinum has a massive demand within that green economy, especially specifically with hydrogen.
Yeah.
And those are like the things. I mean, so we've looked at these things. I mean, if you'd asked me 3-4 years ago, and I come from a mining background, from a manufacturing side, and I saw platinum peak around 2008, and then it completely crashed, where there's a massive move in the autocat market away from platinum into palladium. And that's where the whole platinum price crashed, because of that natural move across.
Yeah.
Now, interesting enough, Russia has the biggest supply of palladium in the world, and South Africa has the biggest supply of platinum.
Okay.
And we know Russia's got two problems right now. The one is war, and the second is permafrost. And why I say that is Russia, when I first learned about permafrost, I thought it was a few meters deep. You know, and actually we're talking hundreds of meters deep. In fact, full mines, their full infrastructure was mined in that permafrost. We're talking hundreds of meters deep. Now that's all melting, and we know with a mine the biggest problem from a production perspective is water. If you got too much water, you can't be blasting and removing the ore. So you literally, that was where platinum was already. And I'm talking about nearly 2 years ago. There's a massive shift away from platinum to palladium to platinum from an investment perspective. So people started to see something was going on. And now with the war, of course, that stopped a lot of the Russia having access to palladium. So that's also shot it up. And what's interesting now is platinum has definitely gained some more ground on that side. There is massive demands for it. Same with silver. Silver has the highest heat and electrical conductivity of any metal.
Yeah.
In fact, the biggest demand for silver right now is solar panels, and the two biggest countries in demand is India and China. They're the two biggest economies and populations in the world. Not economies, but two biggest populations in the world. And their demand just on solar panels, they're talking around a 20% growth over the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
So we're talking millions upon millions of ounces of just being poured into silver. I know people are going to say, but yes, if you look at the gold and silver price right now, and even platinum, everything's come right down, and they're at exceptionally low prices right now.
But
And
then
yes,
it's the time to buy.
this is the best time to buy right now. And this is another thing, Joe, that I really need to emphasize to people. When purchasing physical metal, precious metals, it's not buying today to sell tomorrow.
Yes.
Mind shift of buying and holding.
Yeah.
And this is what's very important, is that ounce of silver in 5, 10, 15 years from now may be valued at $100 an ounce. I mean, when I matriculated in 94, gold was around $400 an ounce. If you'd said to me then that we'd see gold go to $2,000 an ounce, it just seemed like too far to believe. And now, I mean, they're talking about gold has the growth by the end of this decade, which we now nearly is coming up to less than 8 years away from the end of this decade. They're talking about gold conservatively being projected to around $2,700 an ounce. That's fine, but that's in dollars. Where will the rand be in 2030?
Yeah.
I can tell you now, it won't be 10 to 1.
No, obviously not. But just very quickly, because there's a question here. Bebop Williams is asking about silver. He actually asked two questions about silver. So just let me find
Yes.
the other question that he had. Okay, so the first one was Dion, what is going with the silver price? Silver billion, does the value come? Sorry, where does the value come from since it will not be physically used in an application?
Okay, Bebop, just expand on that question, but I kind of think we are going with that. Okay, you got to look at it like this. If you look at the gold market in total value, we talking trillions of dollars are being exchanged and bought or sold within the gold market on a daily basis. The silver market is a far smaller market. So when there is we saw this last year in January, February, where the what's it's Wall Street bets, the Reddit groups decided that they're going to squeeze silver like the brothers in America in 1980, and where they both decided they literally bought out all the silver and they created a massive spike, which in today's terms would be equivalent to about $150 an ounce. And what's interesting is the Reddit Wall Street bets groups did the same thing. Is they started purchasing physical silver. This caused a massive surge. It went over $30 an ounce. There's a massive retract. And again, we've seen this. It also again when peaked up into the high 20s over the beginning of this year towards May. And there's been quite a pullback. And people need to understand this. We are in the midst of a massive economic correction. Now, I can choose my words saying, is it a recession? Is it a depression? But if I look at a lot of reputable economists, some of them are talking about an 80% correction. What would that mean? That is the equivalent to a Great Depression in market movement and correction. Now, just to qualify that also is if you look at the S&P 500, and I remember we discussed this the last time.
Yeah.
Basically, the S&P 500 is a barometer or an indicator of the top 500 companies within America. There's a weighting, so it's not exactly the top 500, but the top 500 companies that are weighted within that S&P. And what's interesting, last year alone, there were 47 all-time highs of the S&P 500. So last year, it was just going up, going up, going up. And it doesn't make sense if you consider that prior to that, the world was under lockdown. Production, all those kind of things were not, there was very little activity. Yes, we had quantitative easing, and this is what was happening, is a lot of those companies were receiving funds to keep them afloat. But now that effectively has caused a bubble, to simply put it. And we're at that point now where literally things will correct themselves. So what does that mean? If you have all your wealth in fiat-based currencies, so that's the rand, the dollar, the pound, the euro, you name them, those are all fiat-based currencies. We are going to lose massive value or wealth within those fiat currencies. And again, this is why I say if you had your wealth or portions of your wealth in physical bullion, be it gold, silver, or platinum, you will then at least mitigate that. So now the question is, why has silver fallen? If we look at gold and silver, now we've seen all across the markets, there's been massive pullbacks on everything. Everything's dropped by 30%, 20%, and there's been a massive drop. Now, the natural point is after the correction actually comes into play, the first things that will naturally be gravitated towards from an investment perspective will be gold and silver because they are money. They are natural, tangible money. And a lot of your big investment houses, so the likes of JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, those kind of big investment banks, they would put all their money into gold and that to secure the devaluation of their funds. And that will then start to escalate gold. So right now, yes, they are pulling back. There are a lot of pullbacks, and that's not a bad thing. As you said earlier, this is probably the best time to be buying. Um, uh, I cannot believe that you'll see silver at these prices or gold. I mean, the fact that it's down into 1700 right now is a perfect time to be buying. And
Well,
again,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like I'm definitely, because I told you last time we were on that I was gonna invest, but I just
yeah,
needed finances to be all right to do so, and I'm definitely gonna get in touch with you guys in the next few days to just start doing that. I think it's time, and uh, everybody else knows. I don't know if you know, Dion, but I did announce it on my channel that I'm going to be a dad at the beginning of next year. So thank you. So I got to start making sound investments for the future of the family. And so yeah, you'll definitely get a message from me. Um, what would you suggest? Because like I don't have a lot of money. I really don't. Is there an
so right
option
now
where we can do a
you don't
monthly
have a lot of
thing?
money.
Is there a thing where we can do a monthly thing? Do you offer
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so Joe, and firstly, congratulations.
Thank
I'm
you.
a father of three children,
Oh
and
wow.
they are my world. And you are starting a whole new journey, and it's very exciting. But the lovely thing with this is, we also know that when we talk gold, silver, especially gold, it seems like it's for the wealthy. And we always were mindful of that. And that's when I said there has to be a better way to do this, where the average person in the street can access gold, can access bullion, and can access the physical product. There's no point in owning this and holding this, and it costs 30,000 rand. An ounce of gold right now is around 30,000 rand.
Sure. That's a
I
lot.
don't have 30,000 rand right now. I've invested everything into my business to make sure that I can give the best possible service, the best possible client experience. And so we developed a product called the MMC, which is your monthly medallion club. Again, you can go onto a website, you can sign up there, you can create your profile. The lovely thing is we offer packages on package one on silver at 375, platinum at 450, and gold at 500 rand. And the amazing thing with our product versus any other product on the market right now is it's not a savings. So you're not putting money into it until you get to the value of an ounce. You will then have that ounce, which we can either deliver to you with Skynet, or we can hold it in vault, which is free vaulting and insurance with Fidelity, who are our actual partners. But the lovely thing with this is, Joe, and now as you got a child, and you need to think about this, is look to maybe get one of those packages just for that little bambino. And every month you build up, and as they grow, those grams keep growing. And the amazing thing with this, and this is a difference with this product versus anyone else, is they gram. So on a monthly basis, we are purchasing grams on your behalf. The thing with gold and platinum is, by law, as lay people, we can't hold any unfinished item of gold or gold or platinum. Silver, you can. You can hold silver dust, silver granules, bars, coins, you name it. But gold, it has to be a finished item, be it a Krugerrand or a sovereign coin of some sort, or a medallion or a little bar or things like that. So, and the same applies to platinum. The problem with bars for both platinum and gold is they got to be serialized. There's got to be full paper trail, and there's a whole lot of issues with them. So they're not easily movable. So say you choose to want to leave tonight, fly to South Africa with portions of your wealth for whatever reason, there's limitations on it. Same thing with Krugerrands. They are a sovereign coin. They've always been a very strong brand within the bullion space, but they are a sovereign coin. You, as a South African, will only ever own the value of a Krugerrand. You'll actually never own the Krugerrand. It's government property. So it's like the notes in your wallet. They essentially belong to the government. If you deface or damage a note, you will be arrested. The same thing applies to a Krugerrand. The concern there is simply, in order for you to leave South Africa with, say, your Kruger rands, and I had a client who invested over R1 million worth of Kruger rands, and by law, with the SARS clearance, you can only take 10 Kruger rands out with you. That is a limitation. Now we prefer, and we do sell Kruger rands, but we do suggest to look at medallions. Now, what is a medallion? Medallions fall into the same category and class as collector coins and jewelry. So we do, for instance, on gold, we do a tenth of an ounce, which is a small little 3.2 gram ounce, 3.2 gram, 24 karat gold. So it's triple 9.9 fine gold. We then do a quarter ounce, a half ounce, a 1 ounce, which is 32.151 grams. And we go right up to a kilogram of gold, which is literally the size of my hand and weighs a kilogram. That kilogram of gold right now is valued at about R1 million. The difference with this is you can take that kilogram of gold in the form of a medallion, you can put it in a box, and you can leave, fly it in an airplane tonight, and by law, you're not breaking any laws. You don't need, because it is classified as a personal use item. So again, we've looked at what is the best things to invest in, and we looked at medallions. So go back to the MMC. The MMC is, we base it on an ounce. So be it whichever package you choose to invest in. Once you achieve an ounce, like I said, we can either get it delivered to you with Skynet, and it's insured delivery to your doorstep. But we are living in South Africa. I've had a lot of clients say to me, they'll have a few things at home just for in case, and then the rest I must keep, and that's why we utilize Fidelity. They're world class. They're the biggest security company on the continent and the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere. The lovely part with Fidelity also is they upscale their security to meet our needs and demands. So if we ever have to do a big delivery of big sums of money, we could have air support, ground support, you name it, and they will deliver it, meet us on that. So we've really looked at that. And same thing with Skynet. I mean, we've had unbelievable service from Skynet, where they literally deliver to your door. It's fully insured. So we really make sure that you as a user, your bullion, your investment is completely protected at all times. And that's it. Like I said, the lovely thing is that package every month may seem insignificant. And who actually inspired this whole MMC product of ours was a lady, and I'll just call her Barbara from Langebaan. And every single month, she would buy an ounce of silver from me. I just want to see if I can get it there. Yeah. So that's our big five. Yeah. So every month she would I'd deliver an ounce of silver to her. There you can see. I just want to turn that around. Oh, see, everything's in reverse. Okay, so that says, it basically says double 9.9 fine silver. So it's the highest grade of silver you can get. As I mentioned, triple 9.9 fine gold. It is 24 karat gold. I mean, I had a client who I delivered. He bought, I think 8 ounces of gold. And he phoned me. He's like, I just want to let you know you've changed my life in the way I think about things. And I said, the great thing with that ounce of gold, and he is young, he's in his early 20s. I said, you can take one of those to a jeweler when you meet the woman that you want to marry, and you can say, make that into a ring for me.
That's true.
And
yeah.
It's 24 karat gold. You cannot get a high purity. The lovely part with also that medallion is I can take it anywhere in the world. And based on the international price, I will get that price internationally. So if I am in New York, in Shanghai, in Perth, in London, in Paris, or wherever, the value of that is maintained. And I'll go back to it. In 5 years from now, where will the rand be? How much of your wealth do you want to be in rands when we know that the rand is falling? Look
None
at
of it.
but Joe, look at that Argentinian thing.
Yeah.
That in 2.5 years, if you'd invested a million pesos in gold, you'd have 11 I think it was 11.2 ounces of gold. That value now in pesos is 2.5 million pesos. The same value, if you kept it in a bank, which you believe, we've been told that these are safe institutions,
Hmm.
would be worth under 600,000 pesos.
Jeez.
I
Yeah, it makes
mean,
you think.
yeah.
I also want to take a moment and show off my little silver thing that you
Yes.
gifted the show with. So I want to say thank you for the gift. It was really, you didn't have to, but it is greatly appreciated. As you can see, I kept it, and I do value this, and I keep it usually right here in the background. So that some people might notice it or see it. But
Oh, thank
yeah, it's a real piece of silver.
you. Yeah. Joe, the lovely thing is that can sit on that shelf for the next 5 years. And yes, right now it's valued at about 400 Rand, roughly. Where will the price of silver be in 5, 10 years from now?
Yeah,
I mean, projections go, like I said, the biggest demand is in the photovoltaic market, your solar panels. That's a massive driver. Then we got the electric car and all of that, the whole drive away from fossil fuels. That's going to be a big driver on silver.
yeah,
But again, these are things that you're putting your money into where they're going to hold value. And then I will say, in 5, 10 years from now, where will the rand be? So yeah, here you hedging, and I didn't finish the story about Barbara from Langenband,
sorry.
but she literally inspired the whole MMC thing. Like I said, every single month she would buy an ounce from me, and some months she'd phone and say, "Listen, my daughter's getting married. Can I buy 2 ounces?" Or she heard something on the news that scared her, and she'd buy 3 ounces. But what it started to show me was, someone doesn't have, right now, a kilogram of silver would be about 13 to 15,000 rand. I don't have 13 to 15,000 rand, but I've got 400 rand, I've got 500 rand that I could be putting away. Is it going to affect my living? It means that I probably won't be able to go out and have the takeaways on a Friday night, maybe, or there's certain things that we need to relook at.
Yeah,
But what's important is, where do you want your wealth to be in 5, 10 years from now?
yeah,
So there's got to be certain strategies and certain sacrifices you're going to have to make in order to make sure that you got some value in it. And that's
yeah.
that's where that whole thing came from.
So this is, in your opinion, investing in one of these silvers probably, for, I guess, for a greater return on investment, platinum or gold, in terms of like saving up for like a retirement plan, right? I mean, that's where we started this conversation. So,
Yeah.
um, this, instead of, the pay as you earn, or the whatever other thing you do when you have a job or whatever, into your retirement plan, investing into this. So like if I invested, let's say, not that I could right now, but let's say someone out there could invest, I don't know, 1,000 rand, 1,500 rand a month for 10 years. That would probably get them close to an ounce of gold, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, very,
um,
very quickly.
yeah.
Just on that, I mean, that's if you look at the whole RA exercise we did, my premiums, I think they started at around 600 rand. Currently, they're around about 1,400 rand.
Mm.
So they're there. I mean, that's decent money on a monthly basis going out of my bank account. And the sad thing is, and I love my broker, but he's making the money from the RA. If
Mm.
if I'm blunt about it, and we look at it, you look at an RA, and when it comes to maturity, yes, you can have it, but you can only have half. And
Yes.
then we'll pay out the other bits. And what about the performance? Well, the markets didn't go that well, and this is what we
Mm.
project. But I always love their projections are always like sky high, and they're going to do this and that. But interesting enough, like I said to you, everything I said to you about gold, or the performance of bullion is fact.
Yeah.
I mean, go and see. Gold has given a compound return in dollars of 8% for the last 50 years. That is a fact. In South African terms, in the last 20 years, gold has given a 21% return in rands.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So, and that's that. So, what I'd say to you is this: where to invest. Silver is it's more economical, and it's a great entry point into bullion. But I would also say to people, and especially after this RA exercise, do not underestimate the value of gold, especially if we can't afford it.
Yeah.
But you can afford it in small pieces and start to grow those small pieces. If you're looking at 1,500 rand a month, I mean, you will grow those ounces, but you must remember every single month you're purchasing grams from us.
Yeah.
We hold those grams, but you are always the owner of it. So the question is, what happens if I don't get to an ounce and I want to say take that money out and spend it on something else? We liquidate it for you on the day when you choose to liquidate that. And what that means is, so say gold is sitting at $1,700 an ounce right now, and you choose to liquidate it in 2 years from now, and you've achieved half an ounce of gold. We will pay you out first on the value of gold on that day.
Yeah.
So if it's at $2,200 an ounce, all those little grams that you've been growing over the last year or whatever becomes more meaningful.
Yeah. That makes
And that's
sense.
the lovely part of it.
And sorry, I had another question now. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was also about gold. Oh, when it comes to someone, whether no matter what they've said, whether it's been an ounce, 2 ounces, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they say, "Cool, I want payout now." Um, does the tax man take a cut?
So Joe, I mean, simply, you must remember we all pay tax, and
That's a yes.
but no, but I will qualify what I'm going to say to you.
Okay.
This is the difference. This is the difference with an investment. So say when I retire, at that with an RA, it gets taxed on the full value, and I then have to pay all that. The difference here is I'd only ever get taxed on whatever wealth I convert from gold into rands.
Okay.
So I can say I've got 20 ounces of gold in 10, 15 years from now, and I want to, and I'm telling you now, keep it in gold. But say you do, your maybe be your son or daughter is getting married in 20 years from now, and you want to be able to give them that lovely wedding, and so you say, you know what, I want to cash in 2 or 3 ounces. You can do that. I want to cash in 1 ounce. You can do that. Or you can say, listen, I want to cash in half of it. You can do that. Yes, there's tax implications based on your income and all those things, but it's not that you now have to pay the full tax or CGT on anything like that until you get to certain amounts. Here you can be cashing out or liquidating on bits and pieces, while the rest of it maintains in gold and stays in bullion over time. That's the difference.
Yeah. And is the tax like a large amount, or is it like,
It, it, it depends again on where where your wealth is and your income and things like that. What capital growth, your CGT would be your big the part of that, but that then would determine on what you own. So be it you got how many properties, what's your total income, what's your investments, all those kind of things. They put that all together. But as I'm saying to you right now, realistically, if you buying and you holding into bullion, if you liquidating or cashing out small values, there's a certain threshold that would then actually go
okay, I
under
see.
anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's around 30 odd thousand rand. But again, it depends on which tax structure applies to you or to whoever's listening. So again, we cannot avoid tax. And that's why, we also, one of our other partners is Tax Consulting South Africa, where we do all our fiduciary and statutory questions or anything that we require, from CGT to property to immigration to all of those kind of things, estates. They assist us on that. And again, the important thing is we everything, like I said, and even when you take that kilogram of gold in the form of a medallion, what we're saying to you is not illegal. It's fully legitimate. It's a way of
Yeah.
holding your wealth. Whereas I know people, and I've clients have said, yeah, well, they took more than 10 Kruger Rands. And I was like, yeah, but you could be firstly arrested, and secondly, they can be confiscated. So you want to take that chance?
No, nobody wants to take that chance, I don't think. Just very quickly before we end the show, some comments I want to just bring to your attention. One from Zach saying, "Wife says we're going to speak to this man." Zach's wife has been raving about you apparently in the background. And he has a question for you. He says, "Your website is killing me. I'm trying to order. Keeps telling me I need to fix errors, but there's nothing wrong. Can I get my people to contact the company tomorrow?" Bear in mind, Deon, Zach is in the States. He's in Florida. But he is South
That's
African.
okay. So I'll speak directly to Zach. Zach, just drop an email to info@dcxbullion.com. And there shouldn't have been any errors. It should be quite straightforward. But I'm more than happy. One of my staff will get hold of you via email, and if we even need to, we could set up a Zoom call where we can actually walk you through it if needed. So we're
Awesome.
quite happy. Yeah, Joe, for us, this has always been a customer focused business, and
Mm.
how we even structure our products, even the MMC. I've had clients where their business are going through difficulty, yet they don't want to stop their recurring payment. I'm like, we don't penalize you. You can put it on hold every single month for the next 12 months if that's what
Yes.
you require. So we make sure, like I said, even when you want to cash out or liquidate, we are the custodians. We holding your bullion. It does not belong to us. We hold it through fidelity, but it's always yours. You're always the owner of it, 100%.
Yes, and I love that option that you give. I think it's great. I'm just dropping your email into the chat so that Zach can send you an email.
Yeah.
So there it is, Zach. If you want to drop Dion an email, go ahead and do so. Okay, so Dion, as we end off the show, I just want to thank you once again for coming on to the show. I think, judging by a lot of the comments that were coming through, everybody agrees with you. So yeah, I hope that anybody else who watches this in the future will see the benefits of investing in gold or platinum or silver. I'm definitely going to. I'm going to look at your website probably tomorrow morning and make a decision, and probably start that as soon as possible. And yeah, I look forward to experiencing some of this customer service that you're raving about.
The pressure's on, but I love it. I'm more than happy to take that on as a challenge.
And yeah, thanks again, Dion. And look, again, you're welcome back anytime. I think it's always good to have a perspective from the metal side of things and the economy. I mean, you're so well knowledgeable on the economics of the world and what's going on, and you're always keeping an eye on the metals and stuff like this. So this was actually a very interesting conversation. I'm glad to see that you guys got great results from the little experiment, I use that word loosely, that you guys did. And yeah, keep me updated, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Well, firstly, Joe, it's an absolute honor to be, that you've afforded me this time. And again, as I said, we've kept it very light-hearted, and it needs to be like that. Life is too short to be taken serious all the time.
Yeah.
Yet we got some serious, pressing things. And for anyone that's listening, just take that. Is think about how you are looking after your wealth. Joe, you are about to be a father, and that is such a profound moment. I mean, when that child's born, you will know you will
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying now. Yet you're going to go through your life now, and it's how do we make sure that we make wise decisions?
Yeah.
And these are some of the things we in such an uncertain world right now. And all I'm saying to people is think about where you're keeping your wealth.
Yeah.
um, and that's what it really comes down to. And thank you again. Yeah, we are always open. Drop me emails. I'm more than happy to answer questions. And again, it's an absolute pleasure, and thanks a million. I do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Dion. I will remind people that the link to your website is in the description, so people can go check out the website right now. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dion's email. If you do want to email him, go right ahead. Once again, Dion, thank you so much. I'll chat to you soon.